Maya Carson's day began the same way every day for the last 6 years, before the sun was up and before the world was even warm. She opened her eyes in the quiet of her small, dim apartment just outside Fayetteville, North Carolina. Her daughter, Lila, was still asleep in the next room, tangled in blankets and dreams, her school backpack already packed and ready beside the door. Maya moved quietly through the morning. She poured coffee into a chip thermos, buttoned her faded pink waitress uniform, and tied her tired sneakers. There was no time for makeup, barely time for breakfast. Just a slice of toast for her and a juice box in Lila's lunchbox. By 6 a.m., she was out the door and walking down the sidewalk toward the roadside diner where she worked. The diner sat just off the highway, a blink and you miss it kind of place with flickering neon signs and worn leather booths. The coffee was cheap, the food was hot, and the regulars were kind, if a little gruff. Maya worked the morning shift, then usually the evening one, too, when the other waitress called out. Her feet ached constantly, her tips were unpredictable, but it was honest work, and it kept Lila fed. By the time the sun had set and the night chill crept in, Maya was already 12 hours into her shift. Her hair was sticking to her forehead, her back ached, and her smile was starting to fade. But she kept going. She always did. At 10:34 p.m., the diner door opened. The little bell above the frame chimed, and a young man stepped inside. He was tall, probably in his early 20s, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. There was a slight limp in his step, and his eyes were dark with fatigue. He scanned the diner as if unsure whether to stay, then quietly slid into the corner booth by the window. Maya approached with her notepad, though she didn't need it. The kitchen was about to close. "Hey there," she said gently, "kitchen's wrapping up in 15 minutes. Can I get you something?" He didn't look at her at first. Just stared down at the table, then finally lifted his eyes and said, "Just water, please." There was a softness to his voice. Not just quiet, but apologetic. Maya had seen that look before. He didn't have money, and he was too proud to say it. It was a look that said, "I don't want charity, but I'm barely hanging on." Without another word, Maya turned and went to the kitchen. She threw together a plate, country fried steak, mashed potatoes with gravy, green beans, and a piece of warm cornbread from the last batch. She filled a glass with sweet tea, added a wedge of lemon, and brought it all to him. When she set it down, he blinked. "I didn't order this." She smiled. "I know. Eat before it gets cold." He opened his mouth to object, but she had already turned away. She went back to work, clearing tables, wiping down counters, while keeping an eye on him. He devoured the food like a starving man. No dramatics, no desperation. Just quiet, focused hunger. Every bite was reverent. When he finished, he sipped the sweet tea slowly, staring into the night through the diner window. At one point, he stood and walked over to the counter. She was filling sugar containers when she noticed him beside her. "My name's Noah," he said, his voice stronger now. "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." Maya gave him a small smile. "I'm Maya, and I know I didn't have to. That's the point." He looked down, took something from his pocket, and handed it to her. It was a single military dog tag, worn and scuffed. "For when I come back," he said. She took it, confused. But before she could say anything, he nodded once and left. She watched him limp out into the night until he disappeared past the gas station across the road. She placed the tag in her apron pocket and went back to cleaning, unsure if she'd ever see him again. The next morning began like any other. Maya showed up early, unlocked the diner, and flipped the sign to "Open." The smell of bacon and coffee filled the air as the morning crowd trickled in, truckers, old regulars, traveling salesmen. She was halfway through refilling the sugar dispensers when Trudy, the hostess, came running from the front door. Her face was pale. "Maya," she said, breathless, "you need to come outside." Maya blinked. "Why? Just come." Wiping her hands on her apron, Maya followed Trudy to the entrance. When she opened the door, her heart stopped. Lined up outside the diner, stretching all the way down the road and looping around the parking lot, were hundreds of men in uniform. Soldiers. Real, solemn, standing soldiers in fatigues and boots, berets tucked under their arms. There were maybe 300 of them, all standing silently in formation, facing the door. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The street was still. Cars slowed as they passed. People stopped and stared. A man stepped forward, an older officer, tall and decorated. He approached Maya and offered a sharp salute. "Are you Maya Carson?" She nodded, unable to find her voice. He lowered his hand. "You helped Private First Class Noah James last night," he said. He was temporarily discharged for medical leave. He walked 15 miles from the base. He hadn't eaten in days and was in a very dark place. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "He collapsed during roll call this morning," the officer continued. "We got him to the infirmary. He's stable, but before he passed out, he told us about you. Told us you gave him food without asking questions. That you reminded him what home felt like." Another soldier stepped forward. He handed Maya a sealed envelope. She opened it slowly. Inside was a collection of folded bills, checks, and a note. The total written at the top was over $14,000. "For you," the officer said. "Tips. Gratitude. From his brothers and sisters in arms." Maya's knees wobbled. She stared at the envelope, then at the endless line of soldiers. Some of them nodded at her. Others smiled faintly. A few had tears in their eyes. But it didn't stop there. That afternoon, a team of soldiers came to the diner to fix the broken plumbing that had leaked for months. Another unit patched the roof, painted the walls, and cleaned the windows. They worked in silence, with respect, and refused payment. Word spread. People from the base sent donations. A new refrigerator was delivered to Maya's home that evening. Another soldier offered to help tutor Lila after school. The local base organized a fundraiser. In 2 days, it raised over $100,000. Maya was overwhelmed. She didn't want the cameras. She didn't want the attention. But when reporters showed up and asked why she helped Noah, she finally spoke. "Because I know what it's like to be invisible," she said. "And I know what one meal can mean when the world forgets you exist." 2 months passed. The story faded from the news cycle, but not from the lives of those it touched. One quiet Saturday morning, Maya was refilling coffee at the counter when the bell above the diner door rang. She turned and froze. It was Noah. This time, he was clean-shaven, his uniform pressed, his walk steady. His eyes were bright. He walked to the counter and pulled something from behind his back, a framed photograph. It was of the soldiers standing in front of the diner that morning, lined up in perfect rows. He set it down gently. "I wanted to thank you properly," he said. Maya blinked back tears. She stepped around the counter and hugged him tightly. "You saved me," he whispered. "I was done. I didn't think anyone cared anymore. But you reminded me there's still kindness in the world." Everyone in the diner clapped. Some cheered. Others wiped away tears. A year later, the diner had doubled in size. Maya had started a nonprofit, the Maya Foundation, dedicated to helping veterans transition back into civilian life. They offered hot meals, housing support, counseling, and job training. Soldiers, veterans, and civilians all volunteered. The little roadside diner became a symbol of what could happen when kindness met action. And Lila, now 9, wore a T-shirt every day that read, "My mom helped a soldier, and the army helped her back." Maya never called herself a hero. But the soldiers who returned to the diner year after year would always say the same thing. "She didn't save just one of us. She reminded all of us what we were fighting for." And it all began with a meal.